Slowhands Rock Talk Show.
That's fine. So thank you so much for making a little bit of time out of your Sunday morning to come on and speak to myself about all things music. We'll speak about the band, we'll speak about yourselves, your relationship with music, and we're going to find out all about you. But I'll ask the questions, you can both answer. Eliza, we'll start with yourself. Where originally were you brought up?
So I was brought up in Aberdeenshire, which most people don't guess because my accent is odd and confused. But I was brought up mainly in like a little town called Huntly. It's like halfway between Aberdeen and Inverness. And then my parents moved out to a place called the Cabrick, which is more the middle of nowhere, hills and heather and distilleries and not a lot of people or venues or anything like that. So yeah, I ended up moving down to the northeast of England for uni, but also to I just kind of had to pick a city with a bit more going on.
Just spreading your wings, basically.
Yeah, I think it was always the plan with music to like move a bit further afield because there's not a ton for original rock music anyway. There's not like a ton in the northeast of Scotland, I'd say. There's definitely bands up there, but even then, I'm not from Aberdeen, I'm not from the city. I was still about an hour out, so I was going to have to move somewhere anyway.
Yeah, I was speaking to someone from a band up in Stornoway.
Okay, that's even...
Yeah, and they were like a proper metal band, and that's what he's saying, if it's not traditional music,
yeah,
kind of just, there's not really anywhere to play, so they obviously, I think they still live there, but for recording and for gigging and that, they've got to come to the mainland and then kind of go further afield, which is understandable, I suppose. What about for yourself, Grace? Where were you brought up?
So I'm from Hartlepool and live in Hartlepool and met the band, I co-founded it with GK when we were in uni in Leeds, so kind of similar to Eliza, there's definitely a thriving music scene in Hartlepool, but as a teenager I was just ready to move out the town and go to a city and be around more gigs and more people and meet more people, but moved back in lockdown. But because I'm freelance, I travel around anywhere, so it doesn't really kind of matter where I'm based because, every day you might wake up somewhere different.
So see for each of you, were you exposed to music from a young age? And if so, where did that come from? Was that parents or siblings? And what type of music were they listening to?
I was pretty much exposed to the rock music that I still like from day dot, really. My dad certainly is a big music fan, so I do remember a lot of Rainbow and Zeppelin and Alice Cooper and the Beatles and the Stones and stuff being played in the house, so it's just always been
sounds like the class.
Yeah, which is still what I listen to. So
what about yourself, Grace?
My parents were both punk rockers, so grew up listening to a lot of punk music, but then I hung out with my grandparents a lot and they would be listening to classical. So I started on classical piano just because of the exams, really, doing exams in piano. But myself, I got into my own music when I was about 12. And I guess it was because of my parents' influence and my dad being kind enough to take me to bloody Manchester, Leeds, Newcastle for gigs and driving us back to get to school for the next day.
Well, I was going to ask there because a lot of people I speak to, if they've got good parents, they're exposed to some good music from a young age. But what age were the both of you when you discovered your own musical taste? Who were some of the bands that you discovered for yourself, which was maybe something different from your parents?
Well, I've kind of got a funny story. I guess it's probably my sister's influence, but I got a message from a primary school friend when we announced Download Festival. Strangely, they were in my dream last night. But they messaged me saying oh, I'm really happy for you. It's an amazing festival to play. I can remember in primary school, I'm speaking 8 years old, I was showing people the Blackout Crew, put a donk on it. Yeah. And that was his core memory of me and music. Funny, I was listening to DJ Cammy on Pixar at age 8.
I feel if I don't know, I just grew up kind of around good music. So I'd say I came back to it. Like, I remember when I was little hearing a lot of classic rock and stuff. And then, because my bread and butter of what I like to listen to is either sort of 70s rock or metal, really.
Yeah.
So then I think I was like 13 or 14 when I kind of came to it on my own, though. So that was kind of a different thing, and got really into, of all things, the B side of physical graffiti, which was like the weirdest gateway drug to being a Zeppelin fan, but just really fell in love with that. And then, I don't know, just got completely obsessed with that. I still do love sort of 60s and 70s rock mainly, but I've kind of added in as I've gone through seeing stuff live. Like, I remember first hearing more, I guess, like extreme metal, for lack of a better term, stuff that at one point I was like, why are they screaming? And then you just hear more and more of it, like when you're at bigger gigs, like maybe you've gone to see the classic rock band, but then, I don't know, like Lamb of God are playing in the day or something. And then just through being exposed to it more, I like really found a love for that side of things as well. So, yeah.
I mean, I suppose the beauty of music, there isn't a right or a wrong. And even when it comes to the music that you listen to, you can listen to two bands that are so far apart, but you still love the music that they're creating. That's a great thing. Give me a wee laugh. What was the first professional concert both of you attended? Do you remember?
Yeah, mine was Arcade Fire when I was about 12.
Where was that? Where was the concert?
Where was it? It was like in an arena in Manchester. I can't remember the arena's name, but I went with my dad and my friend. But yeah, that was kind of like the first one that I initiated to like say to my dad, like, I want to see Arcade.
Yeah.
I think technically mine would have been the Wicker Man Festival when I was 5, because my parents took me to that. And I know that Arthur Brown played. I know that the Blockheads, obviously Sandsy and Jury, played. It's hard to say. And probably, and Scottish people will recognise this, definitely the, what were they called? Were they called like the Singing Kettle or something?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And they'd like sing You Can't Shove Your Granny Off a Bus. I do remember seeing them. So, you know, that's a real rock and roll start to, like, those were when I was tiny. I remember
what you're saying is that the Singing Kettle put you on your path for rock stardom.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that as my answer.
That's fine. And Grace is looking puzzled, like, what are you talking about?
They're like the Scottish Wiggles. They were great.
So, Eliza, you play lead guitar. Grace, you're on synths. How did each of you come across that instrument? Like, why was it that instrument? Why was it not another instrument?
For me, I started on piano, like, growing up. And then when I was, like, 13, 14, I was listening to a lot of, like, Bjork and Grimes. And it was Grimes in particular had the Roland Gaia. And just the versatility that you had with the synth, like, making all the beeps and bops and boops. Yeah. That, like, experimental side, being able to just make soundscapes. So, yeah, I got it, like, secondhand on eBay. And that's the same one that I have to this day.
Yeah. I started on piano as well. Not because I sort of wanted to. My sister wanted piano lessons, like, as her birthday present one year. So she started. I would always have to go and pick her up afterward, after school or whatever, with my mum. And her piano teacher was like, "Why don't you come in for a lesson?" And I was like, fine, yeah, sure, because I'm just waiting anyway. So I started playing piano. Just it sort of came to me rather than the other way around, and that was fine. That was like a hobby, you know. And then it wasn't until I sort of got really into, like, Keith Richards and Jimmy Page and Hendrix and everything. And then, because we'd always kind of had an acoustic guitar in the house, but I never really, I don't know, been moved to play it. So I don't really know what it was, like, about lead guitar that particularly appealed to me. I think because I can't sing. I've never been able to, would love to. It's, you know, it's just not something I can do. But I think I still kind of wanted to be like the front person. And I was like, oh, the lead guitarist, they're kind of like the singer, but they're more mysterious because they're not actually putting themselves out there too much. Yeah, I'll do that thing. So I don't know. I liked how that vibe was in band. And just learned a few chords and just taught myself the guitar. But probably having piano lessons helped a bit. But I just kind of.
I think lead guitarists can steal the spotlight with having to command the stage as and interacting with the crowd. They can just still concentrate on their instrument.
Yeah, I think I kind of still wanted to be a little bit like I don't know, wear a stupid outfit and be at the front, but not quite enough to be like, have to be the one that says good evening to the crowd.
The two of you are obviously learning your instruments. You're right into it when you're teenagers. Who would you have said was your musical influences for your instruments when you were growing up?
I suppose definitely similar, like Jimmy Page for me is the main one,
Yeah.
And then so many. Like I was really inspired by Nita Strauss as well, Alice Cooper's guitar player, just because, she's really sort of active online, and she's just got a lot to sort of say. Very inspirational lady. Just like every great guitar player of the classic rock era, to be honest, was a bit of an influence. And then I kind of had, I still, I am no Malmsteen, but I had a little phase with listening to like Jason Becker and Yngwie Malmsteen. I say phase, I still listen to them, and Paul Gilbert and people like that. So I got quite into like guitar players, do you know what I mean? Very much like I could listen to a full instrumental guitar album and I'd be like, this is mint, this is great. So yeah, just have
Yeah. What about yourself, Grace? Who were some of your sort of musical influences back then, and maybe still to this day?
At the time, it was definitely Grimes with the synthesizer.
Yeah.
Seeing live versions of Grimes. But also, I guess, Regine from Arcade Fire, and because I loved how the band members would switch around on stage. And like Regine would go from like playing the drums to then getting up and singing and swapping around. But also, I'm a really big fan of the band Alves. And I guess seeing the keyboardist as well, like growing up live, was probably a big influence as well. Oh, and Warpaint. I loved and still love Warpaint.
Well, I was listening to the band yesterday, and the synths definitely, in my opinion, they definitely change your sound, and you have your own sound as a result. I think if you didn't have the synths, you would still have a good sound, but the synths definitely set you apart from other bands similar to yourselves. I was kind of like listening to it, like, I always like to think, who does this remind me of? And do you remember the band Garbage?
Oh yeah, we did get Garbage. We use Garbage as a reference quite a lot, actually.
Well, it was like Garbage, but with a lot more rock elements in it.
Yeah.
And even a little bit sort of, if you listen to some Rob Zombie type stuff, like the musical side of it, with a lot of the sort of electronic kind of things, and just the way the beat goes, it was really good. Your singer, I found, was interesting. I don't know what her influences are.
Garbage. That's the one she says all the time, isn't it, Grace?
Yeah, if we're going like
very into Garbage.
Really far back, she like when she was younger, it was Christina Aguilera with the vocal performance.
Right.
But when we're in the studio, obviously it's the bands like You Garbage.
Because I'm listening to her vocals, and what I like is she sings, although it's rock stuff, she's singing rather than trying to like scream, the way some of the guys do. But I was getting, obviously, Shirley Manson, but there was a band from the 60s, Jefferson Airplane, Grace Slick, really famous singer. I was getting some of that, some of like the Fleetwood Mac even. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, they're a big reference for all of us, I think, as well.
Yeah, getting a lot of sort of those sort of vocal influences through, but it was nice. I kind of felt like your music was quite refreshing because it didn't just sound like the other 6 bands that I heard before it. You did have your own wee sound, but what you like. But tell me, how did the band actually start?
So I was just counting how many were in the band. 4 of us, we met when we were at uni because we went to Leeds College of Music.
Yeah.
And I met GK Grace, the lead singer, when it was literally I was moving into halls. And at the time I was in like a Riot Girl band, and Grace had been like chatting to me online because she thought we were like cool. I'm quoting that. And we just sort of said like that band sort of stopped because everyone moved away and people had bands, and Grace was just saying like she really wants to be in a girl band. I think she'd gotten into like reading like a lot of politics and feminism at the time. So we were just sort of like, yeah, we'll make one eventually. And about a year later, GK put the post out on like the Leeds page. We were like in a uni page.
Yeah.
So I believe Gabby came forward on that like post. Our lead guitarist at the time was like a mutual friend at the uni, and we sort of like scouted Hannah. Like Hannah was playing bass in another band at the time, and that was like sort of early days when we first met. But then one of our first ever like DIY tours, we played in Newcastle, and with me having like that Northeast tie, I was always like on the radar for like cool bands in the Northeast. And I came across Eliza's band at the time. So Eliza actually supported us like early days, and we really got on with Eliza. And it wasn't until sort of like we've made like sort of Venus Grrrls branding, and sort of since Grace was better after lockdown, we approached Eliza, and Eliza's been with us since as well.
What year was that then that it started, roughly?
So with the like Venus Grrrls with Eliza, it was what, 2022, 23, was it?
Yeah.
Was that just after lockdown? That would have been.
Yeah, just maybe a year or so after, because Grace was also ill for a while. But as friends and as like playing together, we all sort of met in like 2019-esque, like 2018, when we were at uni. But yeah, I'd say the band and like the sound and everything sort of came together in about 2022, 2023.
Yeah. So here's a question, and I don't know if you'll maybe have a different answer from each other. Again, there's not a right or a wrong answer, but what do you think makes the band work? And I don't mean in terms of success, but just a very quick message to say thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos, like and leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the episode and give me some suggestions on who I should interview in the future. Back to the video. What makes a band work, as in, does a band need a leader? Not a dictator. Does it need a leader steering the ship that the others are happy to, that they trust their judgment, that they're happy to get behind? Does it need a couple of leaders? What do you think makes the band work?
I think it's collaboration, because I think something that I've found is that we're all like characters in ourselves, and we've all got very different influences too. So that kind of, I guess, probably gives more context to some of those references you were talking about earlier in that sound, how it's maybe slightly different. Obviously, it's great to have a leader as such, but I do think we all have our leadership skills in various sides of it. Like we all look after different aspects of like the band and therefore business. So it's just more about like collaboration, cooperation, and like a lot of communication.
Yeah,
I think it's like everybody brings kind of something to the table, but also we're kind of at that point as a band now where it's, you're not just the band trying to do everything yourselves. Like we do have a bit of a team around us. Like we have a great manager, and you know, we have PR and booking agents and things like that. And so when you start to get that sort of wider team, you know, I think the whole the leadership thing and whether to have it or whether not to can be critical for like getting a band off the ground maybe initially. But I think we're certainly at the point where we're lucky enough to have a bit of a team to where we don't always have to find like all of the direction in ourselves all the time when you're, you know, like writing songs or whatever. But yeah, it feels like a really nice collaborative effort, because I don't think any two of us are like too similar as people, you know, but it all works. It all kind of like locks in by bringing all the different things.
It's an interesting one, because, you know, some bands I've spoke to, they feel they definitely need a leader of sorts. And then there's other bands similar to yourself where they feel that all the members bring something different to the band, but it makes the band work, it makes it better. And again, there's not a right or a wrong answer. It's interesting band dynamics, because as you know, bands can be difficult members, and then obviously if you put ego into that as well, that can mess around with a band. But it's great the way that to see how different bands work. And as I said, there's not a right or a wrong way. But when it comes to Venus Grrrls for songwriting, does the band have a songwriting process?
Yes and no. I mean, it's sort of developing at the moment, to be honest. Because our last single we co-wrote with Max from Yumi at Six. He's just Yumi at Six have recently disbanded, I think. And we worked on that at Newman Studios with them. We like to write in the studio a lot, right. Which I feel like developed probably because, I mean, we're all in that position that a lot of musicians are in 2025, where we all have day jobs.
Yeah.
which means we're like ridiculously busy. So we don't really have the luxury of being able to like take a week out and go for a writing retreat. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to pay our bills then? So a lot of the time it's like maybe the seed of an idea will come from like GK might have a demo, or GK and Hannah will work on something, or, you know, like Grace has come to mind before and we've had like a bit of a playback with things. And then when we get together, we might be like, okay, this is the seed of an idea that's really cool, and then take it into the studio and then be able to really forensically like look at every single part. But I think it's also like it's a point with the songs now where definitely like every little part of the song gets like interrogated with an inch of its life. You know what I mean? Like it's very conscious songwriting.
But I suppose it's everybody's wanting the end result to be as good as possible. So that's a good thing. I mean, it means you care.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the lyrics then? Does everyone take a part in them, or is that more just the singer?
It's really just Grace.
Grace Divine was a lot of Hannah's in but then Grace did change it and it adapted it over time. And then even sort of last time in the studio, like we'll just kind of give little ideas, but it is mostly GK as sort of like the singer, lyricist.
And what about the band's recording process? Do you record part of it live? Do you start with the drums and layer everything on top of it? What's the band's recording process?
Always different, to be honest. Like the last one was mostly live tracked and then added the layers on top, such as like the vocals and the synth and the guitar. But in the past as well, we've done like instrument by instrument. Like we'll get the sort of skeleton down demo and then track in what we need to over the top. So it's different every time.
Is there one way that you prefer to the other, or does it depend maybe on the song?
I think it depends on the song for me.
Yeah, me too. I think it depends like where the song's at as well, because sometimes you go into the studio with an idea that's a bit more fleshed out. Sometimes it's, okay, we've got the bones here, but it's really all going to come together in the studio. So it kind of depends. But I mean, we've been, you know, lucky to work with some really, really great producers. And I think that's where it can be nice for a producer to kind of look at what you're dealing with. And so 18 Crows, we recorded at Newman Studios, which was amazing. Really, really enjoyed that. And yeah, we weren't necessarily planning on laying down the basis of it as like a live track, but they were like, okay, let's try this. And went from there, and it really worked. Will we do that next time? I don't know. So I think it like depends what the song kind of wants.
It's an interesting one because I've spoke with a lot of bands as well that have, a lot of them have said the same thing, which is when they play live, and you'll know this yourself, there's a magic to it. There's a spark that sometimes gets lost when trying to record. And the recordings that they do they sound great. You know, I don't see there being any issues with them. But when the band plays live, it kind of goes up a level, and it's hard to try and capture that in the recording studio. But at the same time, in the recording studio, you can also get it sounding perfect if you want it to. And you know, it just sort of, I think it maybe just depends on the song itself, the band, you know, how it kind of works. But obviously you've done writing and recording, and you've also done performing live. See, if you had to do just one of them for the rest of your life, which one would you pick?
Performing live every time.
Same for yourself, Grace?
Too difficult of a question, to be honest, because I'm like an audio head, but then I absolutely love performing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like maybe performance, but only just. And I think it is that element, like that flow state you can get into when you're performing, and obviously you're like actually, that's kind of what music's, in my opinion, there for, is to bring people together in like community. So you're actually with your like community that way when you perform.
So we're about halfway through 2025. So what is the plans for the band for the rest of the year?
More writing, more recording. Got some festivals in. We're doing our first download. That's really exciting. We're playing in Paris next week. I need to find my passport.
I also need to find my passport.
Yeah, and refresh some of my basic French phrases. So that's really fun. Obviously, we've done South by Southwest already this year, so that was all of our first time in the States. That was really exciting. We've got a headline tour sometime. I'm really bad with calendars. October, yeah. It's all just bleh, all in one. Yeah, so that'll be really exciting. We're doing our first Ireland show. That's going to be so fun. Yeah, there's lots happening, but I think mainly we're just looking forward to, I think when 18 Crows came out, we all kind of felt like, I don't know, it marked a bit of a transition and kind of arriving at where we really wanted to be musically. So I think we're really excited to get the next couple of songs written and done and recorded and sort of continue in this spot we're in, where I think we feel like the sound's sort of really shaping up.
Tell me about, what was it like getting the download offer through?
Pretty good.
Surreal, yeah. It's like one of those festivals. I don't think it was on my radar that we were going to play anytime soon. That might be pessimistic of me to say. I guess it's like because one of those festivals that you're like aware of, and obviously it's an amazing lineup.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily think, because sometimes, like Eliza was saying about the team earlier, your team are kind of like in the background, like pitching you or sorting things out, back in. And then it's not until you get like the official offer that you sort of are aware of things.
Yeah,
it was one of those, wasn't it? It just was like I think I was at work or something, and I just saw the like message from the team, like, what? Yeah. Of course I'm free. I hadn't even checked my diary, but yes, of course I'm free.
It's such an iconic festival. Obviously, before it was Donington. It's kind of the same thing, but it's cool. I spoke with there's an Irish band called Therapy. I don't know if you've heard of them before, but I was speaking with Michael, the bass player, and I asked him the same question because in 1995 Metallica headlined Donington, and Metallica got to pick the bands to play that day, and they asked Therapy to play, and I said, what was it like getting the offer from Metallica to play, and then what was your memories on the day of it? And he was just saying it was like, on the day it was great, because I'd said to him, you've got all these bands, is it like a battle of the bands mentality? And he's like, he says it's not. He says you just go out and do your own thing, everybody's there just enjoying it, and I assume it's going to be the exact same for yourselves when you guys show up and rock the stage as well. But that's
nice to just be there, and because whenever I go to a festival, I like as a punter, I always have a great time, but then a tiny bit of me is like, I wish I was playing. Like if I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little bit of me is like, I'm having so much fun, but it'd be nice to actually get. So it's just the best of both worlds when you get to go see some good bands, because there's some really cool bands playing this year. There's some bands I'm really excited to see, and and then getting to play as well. It's just never fun to get to enjoy.
One of those things. If you never do anything else the rest of your days, to say that you played Download is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But see, before we finish the podcast, I like to ask some fun questions, completely random questions. We'll get your answers. You just tell me what pops into your head, okay? So imagine you've got a time machine. Imagine you could go back in time, anywhere in the world, big concert, small concert, wee tiny club gig. I'll let you decide. One concert for each of you that you wish that you could have attended.
St. Hildegard von Bingen in the church. Me and her having migraines together. Great.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin and the Royal Albert Hall. Was it 1969? Was it 1970? Anyway, John Bonham.
I think St. Hildegard von Bingen would have been like 11th century.
Yeah, either that or Madison Square Garden. It would be Led Zeppelin. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Sometime, somewhere, someplace. And
I was laughing because I think we had a similar question before. It was me and Eliza, and I always say St. Hildegard von Bingen.
That is a good shout, though. She's a real one.
Yeah.
Big fan.
I get excited. I'm like, is that going to happen? Probably not, but
you never know.
Maybe in my dreams. Yeah.
Here's another question then. Imagine you could be a fly in the wall. You could, thousands of great songs have been recorded over the years. What is the one song that you wish you could have sat in the recording studio to witness the band record it?
I'm literally so boring. I always just get to say it's just Zeppelin again. I'm a bit of one of those weird fans,
You got a specific song though?
My favourite Zeppelin song, well, it varies, but my favourite guitar solo of all time is the solo on Since I've Been Loving You. So probably that was the solo that I was like, oh shit, I really want to play the guitar. So probably that. I probably want to sit in on the the guitar sessions on that one.
I don't necessarily have like a song as such, but I think it'd be really interesting, like, to go back to when they first had like facilities and the first recording opportunity, just to see what they were like. I'm sure it's probably recorded as someone, but I feel like going like back to sort of very early days to see how it's different.
Yeah.
Your answers are so much more interesting than mine.
This next question, obviously, in this day and age, I think sometimes artwork can be overlooked, but I still personally feel that it's very important because it still represents the band and the music. For each of you, do you have a favourite album cover from another artist that just pops into your head?
Oh God, that's a good question.
I feel like yes, but once again,
I know I need to think about. I need to think about this.
Is it the Led Zeppelin?
I'm sure. Well, I know that's where my head immediately goes, but I'm like, no, think of something different to say.
The thing as well, because I'm like a very visual person, I can see the images, but I won't know like the title of the album because like words just
very quickly scrolling through my Spotify, being like, what's a really great album cover? I don't know. I really like. Do you know what? I know now it's cliche because they define the style, but like I love an Iron Maiden cover. I really do. You know. Well, I say cliche. That's unfair, but you know what I mean. Like that style of very over the top 1980s heavy metal.
Yeah,
I've always enjoyed.
It's still got some of the best album artwork, and it's because it's like a sort of cartoon picture rather than it being like a photograph or. Yeah,
it's like there's a lot that's gone into it,
and it's obviously then great for them for like T-shirts and posters and all the other bits and pieces that they're selling as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Does the perfect album exist from start to finish? And if so, what is that album?
I can think of several, I think.
Led Zeppelin 1, 2.
Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 3, Led Zeppelin 4, definitely. I mean, Rumours by Fleetwood Mac's got to be close, right?
Yeah, I have to say Led Zeppelin 2, I think it's a classic.
2, really, yeah. See, I'd say 4 is perfect. Rumours by Fleetwood Mac is very perfect. Solid Air by John Martin. I won't change a thing on that album.
I think as a teenager, like Fear of Men, both their debut and their second album, and then currently I am a big fan of Sam Fender. So once again, his first 2 albums. Yeah.
Cool. And then last question for each of you: Mount Rushmore. Who is the 4 bands for yourself? I know the answer could probably change each day, but for today, who is the 4 bands for yourself that you see as perfection?
Oh, for me, Men I Trust, so good. Blonde Shell, I'm really into. I'll have to say Sam Fender, and Let's Go Back. Big fan of Kate Bush.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Love Kate Bush. I'm gonna just be really chronically dad rock again, probably. Zeppelin, obviously. Rainbow.
Right.
I'm gonna say Deep Purple. They'd be close, but you know, Rainbow and Deep Purple are in the same kind of. Richie Blackmore's in the both, so I'll go with Rainbow.
Yeah.
Dio era, obviously, but I like it all. Oh my God, that's hard. I mean, the Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Yeah, I love that last question. I'd ask it to every guest that comes on. And what's great is you get a different answer from every single person. And it's not always the obvious choice. If you're a rock band, you might not pick 4 rockers, because you're obviously influenced by so much and there's different artists mean something different to you. It's really cool. But thank you so much for making a bit of time out of your Sunday to come on, speak to myself. I look forward to obviously seeing the band develop, playing Download. That's such a cool thing. But I wish you all the continued success in the future. For anybody wanting to check these out, you are on social media. They can give you a follow. You've got singles and an EP available for streaming and download as well. So everyone should check that out. You are on YouTube. Subscribe, follow the band, show their support. But thank you so much for coming on. And as I say, I wish you all the continued success.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.